Welcome back to Crime Besties to episode 33. Can't believe it. I know we say this every week and it must be so annoying for everyone to listen to, but well, first of all, I feel like when we get to the end of a very research-heavy week, patting myself on the back a bit.
Yeah, it's kind of like, finally, Friday's here, I can get this stuff out.
Yeah.
And we can talk.
Yeah, we can actually like have open conversation about it all because, this one was a heavy week. We're talking about Charles Manson and the Manson family today. But I feel as though for me this week has been, well, there's just so much.
Yes. Where to start.
And where to start and how deep to go into things. So I bet we've got different stuff. So that's exciting.
I'm hoping so.
I reckon we will for sure.
Yeah. I think we'll both bring different things. Yeah.
Yes. How's your week been?
Yeah, good. Oh my God, getting back in the swing of things has been rough. Yeah, this week's really hit me. I think I was saying it this morning. Like I've, worked a full week and the kids have been back at all their sport and everything's back. And then this lingering of like that there's more to come that's coming back in terms of sports and things for the filling up the week, that it's like, I'm really tired. I'm feeling like this weekend I just need to chill and recover. Yeah. But I really can't because it's just, go. There's so much to do.
Yeah, there's always so much to do. And I think one of the mums from our youngest kids' basketball team posted a meme, I think it was on Facebook or something the other day, and she was like, just when you think you're going to get your weekends back because your kids might start sleeping in a little bit more, bam, there comes, junior sport. And I'm like, oh, yeah.
Oh, that's exactly it. My kids are like so tired at the moment. Like I have to wake them up at the moment in the morning for school. Yeah. And like, I'm like, oh, great, hit the weekend and we can, just chill in the morning and have a bit of a quiet weekend. Oh no, 8 a.m. basketball game. Bang.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah. So we've got that again this weekend. Yeah. I think going back to school is a bit of a double-edged sword.
Oh, totally.
I love routine. I think most kids love routine. That really works well for most people.
Yes.
But then you've also then got, on the other hand, you've got lunch boxes every day, not having those lovely slow mornings that you normally get in, in a school week and in a school holiday week. And that's just so much. I feel like there's just so much to do all the time. Like yesterday, drop kids off, go to work, pick kids up. Then we had to go and get basketball shoes because I was that mother.
I can almost I did the same thing. I kept saying to my kids, let's not do school shoes to go back to school with. I reckon you can hold out a bit longer, and because we'd just done new basketball boots, and everything. And I was like, school shoes can just hold out one little bit longer. And I picked up Mason's last night after you saying that about Ollie's shoes. And his is like at the back of his shoe. It's like down to like the innard. I'm like, okay, so we're going to get school shoes.
Yeah. Mine was basketball shoes for Ollie. His feet, his toes were like curled into the tops of his shoes. And the only time I had to go between yesterday when I Wednesday night when I discovered this issue, and
I'm surprised he didn't say anything that it was like, my toes are squished. Like,
he did.
Oh, okay.
But I was like, I'm sure they're fine.
Whatever. Shush you.
What would you know? So the only time I had to go was last night, and it was just crazy. It was just mental.
Oh,
and then, as you said, by the time you go to bed, like you're just exhausted.
Totally.
Anyway.
Yeah, trying to concentrate
I think once we're
on researching.
Yeah. I think once we're in the thick of it and things are sort of on the go, it'll be
just
fine.
the getting back into it all. Like I thrive on routine. Like I get to the end of my 6-week holiday and go bring on the routine. I really need it because I feel like you can just get a little bit. I find I can fit a whole lot more into my day when I'm busy.
Yep.
Like I get more done. When I get on holidays, I find myself doing the whole but I've already got something on that day. Like I can't do something like 2 things. Whereas when I'm back in routine, it's like, what 10 things in a day? Sure, I can fit all them in.
Worries.
But it's just getting
I've got a break
back
between 11:15 and 11:45. Sure, slot that in.
I can do that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I do thrive in that kind of environment, but it's just it's switching back to it that you kind of go, okay, I can do this.
It just takes you a bit to get used to it again, I think.
Yeah. But we'll get there.
It's all good.
It's dragging the kids with you. That's the hardest bit, I think. Because they're, oh God, my 2 are so tired at the end of the day. And it's that overtiredness where, they equally want to stay up later. They're trying to push for later bedtimes, which I'm holding out on absolutely, there's no way we're pushing those out. So then they get grumpier that I'm being such a bitch that I'm not letting them have like a late night, like, you know, but it's you know, exacerbated by this whole fact of like that they're already overtired at 6 p.m. like asking me for a late night, that they're crying about it, and you know,
you're like, oh, this is why I can't give you a late night.
Yeah, you're really not prepared to be able to have a late night.
Look, they'll get into the swing of it as well, because 6 weeks of not doing much, you know. Yeah. It's just takes some time. And then also I think switching their little brains on for school for 6 hours a day, that's exhausting in and of itself.
Totally different use of brain activity than what they do on the holidays, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. New teachers, new classroom, you know, structure with different kids. It's full on.
Yeah. But anyway, that's all part of the rich tapestry that is life. So no, it's good. I'm really happy to be back in routine and all of that sort of jazz.
Yeah.
Anything else been going on?
Oh, no, I don't think
No, same. I feel like we always talk about the same things, but I mean, that our weeks are our weeks. That's just the way it is.
So you can't fit any more in, can we?
Well, it is. Look, I will give a bit of a shout out. It's producer Pete's birthday today.
Yes. Happy birthday, Pete.
Happy birthday. So I actually sent him off to lunch with his dad because I was like, sorry, we've got a podcast to record.
Too bad. No,
but
you've got the weekend.
Yeah, and I'm taking him out for a nice dinner tomorrow night. So
yeah, birthday weekend.
That's it.
You know, spread it out.
He told me last night, though, that he feels as though the week preceding and the week following a birthday.
Oh, Valentine's Day's in there. You two are going to have your love fest, aren't you, for Valentine's?
Oh, totally, because we're really super into that. Actually, do you want to know the most romantic thing that Peter has ever done for me?
This. Did he take you to Star Wars or something, did he?
Oh, God, no, I've never seen Star Wars.
No, I know.
Shock. No, so I feel like it might have been the first Valentine's Day after we bought this house.
Oh, yeah.
So we didn't have kids yet. I don't think we were married yet. And I went to boot camp in the morning and I came home and he had made me poached eggs on toast with bacon, but he'd cut the bacon into love heart shapes.
What?
I know. How romance is that?
Oh, romance Pete.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cute.
I don't think he's ever done anything romantic since, actually.
Oh.
Not that we're Valentine's-y type people. Like, we normally don't even...
Oh, you love it.
Oh, no. But yeah, that's so romance.
Yeah.
So romance.
Oh, that's really cute, Pete.
Yeah. Yeah. Heart-shaped bacon.
Well,
how can you go wrong?
So simple, but so effective.
I still remember it however many years later.
Because he's never done one again since. Like,
Oh,
so you got to remember that one.
No.
That
was a single day inspiration, and that's passed him by now.
Oh, wow.
What's the most romantic thing someone's ever done for you?
Oh. No.
Bought you an electric toothbrush for your 40th?
Yeah, probably.
How's the romance on that?
Oh, the romance is so dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't know. Romance.
Well, you can't really top bacon, heart-shaped bacon, so it's probably not even worth mentioning anything else.
I mean, and my love language is certainly not like that sort of stuff, like Valentine-y.
No, it's a bit cringy, isn't it?
Yeah. No.
What is your love language? This is like a thing that people talk about these days.
Oh, yeah. Do you know what? I feel like my love language changes all the time.
Okay.
Sometimes I need affection, and then other times I'm like, fuck off, don't come near me.
Don't touch me. Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like it's equally as up and down as my moods. You know,
okay, that's fair. That's fair. I think for me it's acts of service, both giving and receiving. Like I like doing things for people.
Yeah.
And I like it when people think about me to do something for me. Like I really appreciate that.
Yes.
The fact that thought's gone into it and
when you put it as acts of service, I think that's probably a love language I love, because I don't like getting gifts necessarily, because some gifts are shit, like, you know, i.e. electric toothbrushes. But when it's really thought about, and it doesn't necessarily need to be one that's cost anything. It can be doing something that's just genuinely something that someone knows as something about you, and that's what you would want. Like,
yeah, agreed. It's not about the thing.
No, not at all.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, with you on that.
Well, there you go.
I have to look into it. I actually haven't done any of the, you know, you can do like quizzes on it, and
maybe we should do one and come back next week let's see what it comes out as.
Right, I'm making notes. Love language.
Actually, we better write that in our books for next week, otherwise we'll forget to do it.
Yep, totes. All right, I'll I'll do a quiz. What we used to get them out of Cosmopolitan. Now, where do we get them from?
Google.
Google. All right, cool.
TikTok? I don't know. Speaking of TikTok, though, our TikTok's been blowing up.
Yeah.
It's been going really well. So if you haven't joined us over there, please do.
You're missing the party.
Oh, funny story. So you know how so we're recording this a couple of weeks in advance, but last week the Carol Baskin episode came out, and my kids are always like, "Oh, what episode's coming out today?" And I was like, "Oh, it's Carol Baskin. I don't know if you know, like, the Tiger King." And they're like, "Oh, no."
You can go Carol Baskin.
And then I'm like, "Oh, there's actually a song about her." And I brought up the Carol Baskin song. And Oliver's like, "Is that a TikTok?" And I'm like, "Yes." And he goes,
"You know this stuff?"
"I don't know." And he's like, "Can we do it?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, all right, fine, we'll do it." There's no way I'm posting it. Like, it is embarrassing.
If you're going to bring it up, it's got to get posted.
It's embarrassing, but it was actually a bit of fun.
Yeah.
Like, doing the dance and learning
it with them.
Carol Baskin killed her husband, whacked him.
It was in my head that entire week researching.
People are going to be singing that now all day after having listened to this.
Thank you.
Soz.
You'll thank us later.
Yeah. Anyway. Join us over on TikTok. You never know what we're going to post.
Let's just stick to videos from our podcast.
Yeah, hey, fair.
Oh, God.
All right, should we get into today's episode?
Yeah, I think we might be avoiding it, are we?
I'm feeling a bit like, as I think we alluded to at the start of this is a massive...
Yeah.
There is so much information out there. And depending on where we went for information, right? This was true for me. I'm sure it was for you too. You could get totally different takes on the way things happened and different perspectives.
There's a few conspiracy theories attached to various things of it. You can get down some serious rabbit holes.
Yeah. So if you want to do that, there are so many things out there. There's long form podcasts, short form podcasts. There's so many different like documentaries and
the list of documentaries on this, and even like movies that or shows that have taken some sort of like inspiration from this story is
like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Like the latest, I think it's the latest Quentin Tarantino movie even depicts this. Like it's in popular culture.
Oh yeah.
And so therefore can obviously be depicted in whatever light people sort of want to present it as. I tried to be really quite factual when I was researching it. So we're doing our best there, but as I said, there's so much information out there if you want to know anything.
Yeah. And you do need to be a little bit careful because of that fact, like things can get a bit blown out of proportion on certain parts of it, I think, and not be factual. So but there's definitely tons of factual stuff out there too. But this is crazy. This is one where I was like, every time I'd be listening to something or whatever, I was reading something about this, I wasn't leaving it lying around or letting the kids hear any of this when I was doing stuff. I was like, this is one that I'm nope.
And even his rantings and stuff, like he's an interesting character.
Yep.
Anyway, Charles Manson was born on the 12th of November in 1934 in Cincinnati, Ohio. We were just talking before we started recording. There are some resources out there that state that he was born on the 11th of the 11th and that was like some kind of devil's number or something. But from all the more reputable sources that I looked into, date of birth, 12th of November. Sorry, it doesn't fit your little,
Yeah, it doesn't tick that box.
Doesn't tick the box.
I think everything else after that point almost does, though.
Pretty much. So Charles was born to Kathleen Maddox, who was only 15 years old when he was born.
Yeah, and she was working as a prostitute at the time. Yeah. So sad. Really.
She hadn't had the best of upbringings herself. I think she was living like on the streets, wasn't she, as a 14, 15-year-old?
Yes.
And obviously, turning tricks to make ends meet and to sort of live her life.
Yeah. The biological father of Manson, or Maddox at the time when he was born, he was even not named on the birth certificate at the time, but later on was that she took a man to court to verify that he was the father, and he was 9 years older than her.
Yeah, so he was 23 at the time of the birth. So this guy, Manson's real father, his name is Colonel Scott.
And Colonel as in like Colonel was his name.
Like as in the honorific Colonel is his actual given name.
Yeah.
But he would then use that as a way of being like, oh, I'm a colonel in the army. And, oh, shit, I've knocked up a 15-year-old. I'm going to fuck off because I'm a colonel in the army.
He told her at the time, he goes, I'm a colonel. I've got to go out. You're pregnant. Oh, I'll support you. But I've been called out I've got to go, I'm posted somewhere. And it wasn't until quite a few months later that she realised, he's not coming back and he's not in the army.
No.
Like, he's not a colonel. His name is Colonel.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell?
What a shit. I mean, she's 15 years old. Of course she's going to believe what this older man's telling her.
Yeah. But Charles Manson never met his father.
No.
No.
So Kathleen was from a devout Christian family. They were very odd in their practice of their religion from what I can gather, but like very extreme, which is why when Kathleen was having issues, she's left home and turned to prostitution to support herself as a young girl. But when she fell pregnant, she decided to go back home and seek the support of her mum. And her mum basically said to her, well, like, this is just unacceptable. You're young, you're pregnant, you're unwed, you've got to sort that out or I'm sending you away. And so Kathleen decided that the lesser of those evils was to actually find a man to marry before the baby was born. And she met a man named William Manson. He was 25 years old when they got married and Kathleen was still 15. I think she was 20 weeks pregnant when they got married. So they must have met and married very, very quickly.
Yeah, well, I married in the August and he was born in the November.
Yeah, so they were really married quick.
Yeah.
Ugh, and he was 25 to her 15. Oh, yuck.
And he was gross. Like
gross. You can look up photos of him. He even looks like creepy.
Oh, yeah.
He was named as Charles's birth father on the birth certificate because they were married, obviously.
Yeah.
Hence the fact that Charles's surname is Manson.
Yeah.
They were divorced a few years later and...
Did you read what he named as the reason for the divorce?
Oh, was it? I think I did. Go, tell me.
So they divorced in 1937, right?
Yeah.
So they weren't married for long.
No.
And Manson, as in her husband, he alleged gross neglect of duty as the reason for divorce. What the fuck?
What was she not
putting out?
Oh,
like clearly that cannot be a reason for divorce.
But maybe in 1937 that was a reason.
I
that
dare
you could
say it
divorce.
was. Yeah, that you weren't fulfilling your duties as a wife.
That is so gross.
Isn't that disgusting?
That is so gross.
Yeah.
But Kathleen actually took him to court for child support.
Yeah.
Because obviously, I mean, he was named on the birth certificate.
Yeah.
But paternity testing then proved that he wasn't the biological father. And then Kathleen actually had no way of seeking out Colonel or where he is or what he was doing. So she was now left with what was Charles at that time, like 1.5, 2 years old.
Yeah.
Bringing up this little boy on her own.
Yeah.
According to Charles Manson, his mother was neglectful and abusive. He tells a story of when he was 8 years of age and his mum was, I think she was again working as a prostitute. I think she had a bar job but then was also, I'm not quite sure where that all kind of tied in. But she offered a patron a jug of beer. Like she wanted to take a jug of beer in exchange for them taking Charles as an 8-year-old boy.
Yeah.
Like essentially adopting him for a jug of beer.
I think he was even younger than that. I think it was I think he was like a baby, a toddler at that point.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Because the transaction took place.
Yeah.
She took the beer and the other person took the baby, Charles, and her brother had to go and get him back.
Oh, yeah. Well, I know that's what happened, but I thought he was a bit older than that.
Oh, maybe.
Oh my God. I mean, look, I might be wrong.
Oh, either way, no matter how old he was, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, she also went to prison when Charlie was like really young.
He was 5. Yeah.
And
her and her brother were doing it together. Like they were on robberies, etc. together, and they were both arrested and sent to prison. Yeah.
So, he's lived a, really crazy young early childhood.
It did not stop there by any means. Like she didn't want him. And I mean, she's 15 when she had him. She's a child herself. You can't really hold that a whole lot against her, I guess. But at the same time, he's not had the upbringing of any typical childhood. He's had to fend for himself pretty much from the get-go.
Yeah.
And then because she couldn't handle him. And at one stage, he was put into a home for boys, and he was being abused, etc. there, and he didn't want to be there, so he'd run away, and he ran away like 18 times from this place. And on one occasion, which was close around Christmas time, he ran home and went to his mother, and she just took him straight back.
Yeah, some really horrible things happened. So when she got out of prison, she actually met her new husband and married him fairly quickly. I think they actually met in prison, or her brother was with him, this guy in prison.
Yes.
So not a good sort.
No.
But he didn't take to Charles at all, didn't want him around, didn't want anything to do with him.
There's accusations that he's abusing him sexually, physically, all sorts
emotionally.
of things. Yeah.
So that's when they sent him to this reform school. He held up a shop at gunpoint, and he was sent to a juvenile prison. In that prison, he was raped routinely, so much so that in an interview that I was listening to with him, he basically said, it was just an everyday thing. Like, it wasn't, he didn't even look at it as a trauma, because it was just something that happened every day, and he just sort of went with it.
But same on the flip side, like I think it was about a month or so before he was about to be released from there, he was caught raping a boy, and also with a razor to the boy's throat.
Yeah.
Like, so, he'd been sort of groomed to the point where he was, also
Perpetrating.
inflicting these crimes against other people as well.
That's it.
Yeah.
So after that event, he was sent to like a maximum security juvenile prison.
Yeah.
And apparently like literally the worst of the worst kids go to this prison. And so now he's sort of surrounding himself with even worse people and worse influences potentially.
Yeah.
He was basically in and out of juvie for like most of his younger years.
The biggest thing for that was that the crimes that he would commit when he was out, they'd end up being federal crimes rather than just state, because what he'd do is he'd steal a car, right? But instead of just stealing a car, he'd drive it over state lines. So then it would become a federal crime, and therefore he would get even longer sentences and be sent back in to these reform schools to begin with, and juvenile detention centres, but then prison later on once he was old enough. And so he would do quite lengthy stints as well. And then eventually he'd get to the point where he'd get parole, but he would do something in jail right before his parole date would be, like before he would be up for parole. And so then he'd go to the parole hearing, and they'd be like, "You're not getting out. You've just done this." Like, so he wasn't helping himself get out either.
But that says a lot to me. When I was looking at this, I was like, okay, this is one of those instances where I'm like, when somebody tells you who they are, believe them.
Yeah.
He is telling you that he's a bad person, and maybe this is his way of being like, I don't want to get out. Because I know when he was released prior to, the crimes that he's most known for.
Yes.
He actually begged not to be released from prison. So this is in 1967.
Yeah.
He begged the parole board to keep him in prison.
Yeah, he actually said that prison is his home, and he requested that he stayed.
He had lived something like 60% of his life by that point.
At 32 at that age.
Yeah,
60%
of his life in prison. So this is what he knew.
Yeah.
And he obviously didn't feel comfortable going out into the real world.
No.
I'm sure there weren't the supports, these days, prisoners, if we're looking to reform, then there's support for them in terms of like housing and all of that kind of stuff. But he was released from prison in 1967 with no home, nowhere to go, no money. I don't even know that I think he had to wear his prison issued clothes home because he didn't even have any clothes that fit him.
Yeah, yeah.
So he's left to his own devices, and the only thing that he could do that day was contact an ex-inmate who he'd befriended when he was in there and ask to sleep on their couch. But then his wife got jack of it and was, after a few days, and was like, "No, fuck off. He's not staying here anymore." He's not staying here anymore.
No.
And so he's then left homeless, basically. Well, he was left homeless. And what's a person to do with no support?
No, well, because, in jail, he sort of found his people.
Yeah. Absolutely.
He got into religion. He got into Scientology, particularly. He was very much learning the offerings of what Scientology had, and was engrossed in that. And he sort of, he had people listening to him and his philosophizing on those sorts of things. So he was already developing into a very incredibly interesting person.
Oh, very interesting.
Yeah.
And very devout in what he was, in what he was reading and I guess like very devout in his conviction for these philosophies and all of these things. So he'd basically taken parts of mostly from Scientology, but he had some Christianity thrown in there. He started developing his own cult-like
belief system.
Yeah. And he'd take from each what he liked and leave the bits behind that he didn't. And so that, that really, I guess, started what we now know as the Manson family cult, really. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was quite early on. It was in one of his stints in prison as one of the schools for boys that he was staying in. So pre to prison and things, that they did do an aptitude test on him.
Yeah.
And that determined that he was illiterate, but at the same time had an above average IQ of 109. So not, genius status by any means, but certainly an above average IQ. But he was also already displaying aspects of a highly aggressive antisocial behaviour. So that was when he was, pre-16. Yeah. So there was traits there already of all sorts of things showing through.
Yeah. I mean, his whole life really sort of led to where he was.
Yes.
Should we start now with sort of more around the cult and how that all came about?
Yeah. So when he gets out of prison in 1967, and from there he was interesting. He fell through the cracks a little bit somehow with his parole, actually, and he ended up in San Francisco, was actually a breach of his parole, which I find really interesting, and that's where we get a little bit conspiracy theory-ish.
Yeah.
Because he then, with arriving in San Francisco, technically when he did do the right thing and he contacted the people he should contact to say, this is where I am and declare that. And instead of them going, you've breached your parole, you've crossed into a different area than what you're allowed to, they've gone, oh, yes, sure, no worries. Here you go. This will be your parole officer here in San Francisco, and handed him over to a man by the name of Roger Smith to be his parole officer. Now, this guy was linked with Berkeley University, and he was involved with another guy named David Smith, I think his name was.
Yep.
And he was doing studies on LSD, the use of LSD on patients, and how that influenced people, and how that could be used to influence people in situations of, we're getting into the MK Ultra kind of, without that being used as a term, but he was certainly, he was then included in these studies that this guy was doing as part of his parole.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it wasn't an official condition of his parole, but it was like, well, now that he was under the care or guidance or whatever of that, what was his name? I've just forgotten his name. Thank you. Smith.
Yeah.
He's basically been coerced or forced, or I don't even know, but
put into the hands of someone who's been a previous drug user and also a criminal.
Yeah, and he presented with mental
free LSD.
Yeah, and he presented with mental health. Obviously mental ill health.
I think it was under the guise of this whole, we want to study, criminals who are coming back into society, and and study how your brain works and how we can
so
reintroduce you to
chuck you some LSD and see what happens.
See what happens to someone in that category. It very quickly it was noticed by, there was that one particular comment, I want to try and find it, where this David Smith actually made a comment around how he presented in these studies, because he was incredible. It was the most abrupt that he had observed in his entire professional career, that it was Manson's ability to use this LSD to his advantage over others.
How so? So as in with Manson taking the LSD.
So basically in these studies, there would be Manson and other people taking this LSD.
Yep.
And whilst they were then left in this room to then, all trip out together, Manson would become very naturally the leader and spout all sorts of his philosophy and all these Scientology and things that he had he was bringing to the table. Mm. And these other people would be engrossed in what he was spouting and and following him. And he was absolutely, so this guy immediately saw this of like, what is going on here?
Yeah, what is this?
Yeah.
That's really interesting because when Manson formed his cult, the family, so the people who were in it now have since said that obviously Manson would give them LSD and they'd be tripping, but he would never take it.
Well, he would take it, but he would take far lower doses.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and he was aware. This is I guess in these studies, he was probably taking an equal amount.
Yeah.
So he could probably, I guess, because he'd had so much, maybe he could also take a bit more. I don't know.
Maybe his tolerance was higher.
But it was definitely there was certain people within the cult later on commented about how they had twigged to the fact that when they would do that, because they would plan it, they'd be like, let's all do this trip. It would be a thing, but they would notice that he would dose himself lower than everyone else.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. He would take some. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, with some of the absolutely wacky shit he'd come out with, doesn't surprise me that he was taking something.
Yes, yeah. He was taking all sorts of things in the end. But
all sorts of things.
Well, there was one documentary I was watching where the guy reeled off all the drugs that they were taking, and then he and yes, there was marijuana and hashish, and then he was talking about acid and all these other things, and the list was getting longer and longer, and then he goes, so yeah, not hard drugs. Like,
where's the line?
Yeah, I'm not being a heavy drug taker myself. Like, what can you tell me when it graduates to hard drugs?
Let me know when it flips to the other side.
I would have thought it would be a quantity as well as the type. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's it. And also the cocktail
of it.
Come on.
Oh God. Yeah, because that was the thing they were talking about. We'd add this to that, and that would level this out, and. Oh,
it's real science to it. Well,
totes.
Well, just a bit of experience probably enables you to figure that out.
Yeah.
Not only was Scientology an influence for Charlie, the Beatles were a massive influence for him, and in particular their White album, which he interpreted as a coded message, basically, for telling a race war.
Yeah, he really thought that they were speaking directly to him.
Yep.
So, I guess the LSD certainly had an effect mentally on him as well.
Yeah, so he believed that black people would rise up and basically take over the US. White people would have to retreat, and he called this helter skelter.
Yeah.
Which is, there's the Beatles song by the same name.
Yeah.
How very dare he... how
don't ruin the Beatles.
Yeah. I think it says something, the fact that when you talk about the Beatles, this isn't the first thing that comes to your mind, is it?
No.
So thankfully they didn't get, while their name, while the band comes up a lot when you're doing research for this, thankfully it's not their legacy.
And was never the intention of their music.
No, not at all. My God. Yeah. No, not the peace-loving, Beatles.
Yeah, because he also called one of the houses that they were living in at one stage their Yellow Submarine.
Yep.
And he believed even that song spoke to them about, but it wasn't about a yellow submarine underwater. He actually called their house, it was a yellow house, but it was them being submersed and acting beneath the surface of... under radar basically from the police and all that sort of thing. So he really interpreted everything
the way he wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was listening to a podcast about this, and they were talking about how he called one of their houses the Yellow Submarine. And one of the people on the podcast was like, yeah, it's because the house was yellow. And you can see photos and stuff of it online. And so this was an American podcast, and they lived in the Yellow Submarine house was in California, right?
Yeah.
And they And the other person was like, no way, no, he's just called it that. There's no way the house was yellow. And they ended up going to the house and it's still yellow.
It's it's a pastel yellow.
Yeah,
it's not bright yellow.
Yeah, it's like a pastel yellow, but it's yellow.
It is yellow, yeah. Which, oh, God.
Yeah. All right. So he's forming, he's forming this cult. There's people
who are following his word.
And a lot of young, very young, impressionable women.
Yep.
The youngest cult member known was 12 years of age, a girl.
Yep.
A girl who left home, joined the cult, lived in the house.
There was a documentary I watched, which I highly recommend anyone go and watch, was called Manson, the Lost Tapes. This is actually footage of, and it was footage of a documentary crew who went in just after they had arrested and raided arrested them for the murders, which we'll get to.
Yep.
So this documentary crew were going in there kind of to get the family's perspective of all of this, right? Which this footage was then really put to the side and never used. But there's a lot of footage of them interviewing cult members about what was going on. And there was a particular girl, but then there was also, and then in 2017, which is when the documentary was actually made, right, which is the year that Manson died, they've interviewed some of the girls, the women from the cult now, in present time in 2017. And so you watch them on this video, in these clips from 1969, 1970, and then now and their thoughts on things. And one of them was 14 in the video clips. You watched her being interviewed and she's speaking in these clips. And so at 14, she was in this cult and when I say that, it was highly sexual. She speaks then about her experience as a, much older woman now, probably 70s, late 60s at best.
Yeah.
Speaking about her experiences. Oh my God, it just blows my mind. But the thing is, what I was trying to get at was that the experiences of these 14, 16, 12-year-old girls and how they managed to end up in this cult is that they were very vulnerable. They all had these backstories that were so incredibly sad, where, mum had rejected them. They'd been kicked out of home for whatever reason,
abused by
step-parents, by someone, and then someone
Yeah.
didn't believe them.
Yeah.
There was such tragic stories, and then he manipulated them around that, and because what he offered them was love.
Yeah, in that
In a
documentary,
really warped way.
Oh, yeah, well, it's so fucked up.
Yeah.
In that documentary, have you seen one of the girls, I think this was a slightly older girl, but she basically said, he has saved my life. I don't know what I would do without him. He is my God.
Yeah.
He is our God.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so that shows the level of commitment these women... There were some men too, but mostly women.
The men came in, he was able to bring the men in to say, God, these women, I can't service them all. You should help me service them, kind of thing. They all want sex all the time. And, so it was, he manipulated then the men into it of that they would get these, and they were beautiful young women,
Stunning.
Gosh, and they were in that era of free love, wandering around naked most of the time, and that it was all on for everyone at all times.
Yeah. Have you heard about Mary? Do you know about
Bremer?
Mary? Yeah. So Mary was, she was a vulnerable girl as well, but Manson was looking for somewhere to live after getting out of prison in 1967, and, he'd outstayed his welcome with various prison friends and anyone else he could come by. So he decided to go out one night and find somebody who he could then have sex with and stay the night with, basically. So he's gone to a bar, I think, and he admits this. He is interviewed saying this, that he found a frumpy girl who looked like she was a virgin and went for it. And it worked. This young girl, how old was Mary when they met? She was living on her own. I think she was over 18.
Yeah, I want to say sort of 18, 19.
Yeah, so Charles went home with her that night and basically didn't leave for a very long time.
Yeah.
They were sexually active with one another, but then Mary would go off to work during the day and she would, have to pay the rent and pay the food bills and all of that sort of stuff. And Charlie would just have, various girls coming over, having sex with them while she was out. Then it came that she'd come home from work and the girls would still be there, and he somehow convinced her that was okay.
Yeah.
And she kind of really got rolled into all of this.
Yeah.
And Mary actually fell pregnant. What year was that?
Yeah, so it was 1968 that she gave birth to their son, Michael, their son. Because at this time there were 18 women living with them, with Mary Brumner and Charles Manson. Crazy. And so she's pregnant and giving birth to their child. It just blows my mind that was just their normal.
Yeah, that's just what they did.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other women in the cult supported Mary through the birth, and it's sort of a bit hippie in nature, I guess, which plays into the time. But how Mary allowed this, I can't even.
David Smith claimed in that whole stuff, because not that Mary Brumner was part of the studies, but he was using what he had learnt there, obviously, and taking it out into the world and his followers. And what David Smith claimed about what he was doing was that he was attempting to reprogram people. Yeah, and that they would submit totally to his will through the LSD and unconventional sexual practices.
Oh, what does that mean? Is this like group sex?
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of that going on,
yeah.
like orgies and stuff.
But basically what his goal was to turn followers into empty vessels that would accept anything that he poured.
Ew, so he just wanted to do whatever he wanted to them.
Yep.
And for them to be okay with it or like going along with it.
Yeah. So at this point, so in 1967, 1968, this is how he's working like those women over. And then bringing in the men into these groups as well.
Yeah.
He did some serious damage to these people's mental health. Yeah.
And also physically, some of the women were pillaged is the only way I can describe it. Like
one story of this 14-year-old that was in that documentary really got me, that she was saying that she had spent time around him and was really feeling, loved by him and enveloped by him. And she had this great respect for him, and she was a virgin. And so she went to him and asked him to make love to her, and that she wanted that. And so him, instead of, with greater age of maturity, going to her as a 34-year-old man, he then took her and off to a secluded spot, sodomized her, raped her, didn't make love to her by any means, did awful things to her, and then told her to never ask for that again. She was like, it was the most awful experience, that she then, definitely never asked him to do that again for her. But also she found herself wanting what she had prior to that moment with him so badly that she just kept trying to find a way back to that original love that she felt for him and that he gave her. She said that was like the drug, was trying to find that what he gave her previously to that incident.
How could she have then gone on to have any kind of constructive or functional relationship with a man? I'm sure she probably, unless she got a lot of psychological help and support. Yeah,
without that, I don't think you could. I think it's just horrific, because she then, like she said, had sex with a lot of different men within the family, and so it became, that's how she just lost respect for herself in all of that, which is awful. Oh,
it's just horrible.
At 14 to have that experience, just disgusting. Poor girl. God.
There's so much of it. There's so many different stories. And
did you read anywhere like what numbers there were involved in this family at this point?
So 100 people at its peak. So I know. When I thought about this, obviously before researching, I knew bits and pieces, but I certainly didn't know a lot. In my mind, I thought the family was like thousands of people.
Yeah.
But it was actually only at its max 100,
right?
Around 100.
Yeah.
But most of them were underage girls. So in terms of who held the power, obviously Charlie held the power. He then had his little subbies, his little agents, in particular Tex Watson, who will come up in a minute.
Yes.
Who also perpetrated these absolutely heinous and horrific.
Oh, sadistic is all the way to describe it to me.
Horrible.
Yeah.
Acts on these young women. And, you know, all under the guise of, but I was being guided by our they called him the
hippie
Messiah.
love, like
free love.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the 60s. I heard a journalist who covered the Manson family a lot back in the day, interviewed in I think it was actually in like a 60 Minutes episode or something like that. And she actually said the Manson murders and the Manson cult signaled the end of the 60s, like signaled the end of free love and all of that, because it was just so horrific that people really changed their attitude towards that whole philosophy. So this was a transformative thing for, well, California, number one, the United States, number two, but then the world as a whole. Like things really did start to shift in the early 70s in that respect. So, this was no small, no small peanuts by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
So Manson's obviously, he's got this cult together, and on the 9th of, should we get to this now?
Oh,
9th of August?
Slightly before, I guess we should make a link in here of like, so there was actually another band that was included in, touched into this. So into the 1968, a couple of the girls, because what they would do is they'd go out and hitchhike. He would send them out to hitchhike to like bring more people into the cult. And when
recruiting.
Because the other thing we should mention, he was a mad musician.
I can't believe we actually haven't touched on that. Yeah,
he learned how to play guitar and in jail, and thought himself quite the songwriter. And so what he really wanted, basically, his life goal, according to him, was that he wanted to become famous musician and songwriter. So he brought his family from San Francisco down to LA to really try and get into the Hollywood scene and get noticed and get a producer and start producing his music. So he did very easily make connections, but a lot of it was through the women in the cult. So these two girls had gone out to hitchhike and had been picked up by none other than Dennis Wilson, who was the drummer in the Beach Boys. Now, crazy how this all came about, that he was clearly a really nice guy who didn't know how to say no to people.
Yeah.
So these girls have like really wooed him, and he's taken them back to his house. It sounds
seedy, but it's not that seedy.
No. It's really weird. But they've gone back to his house and everything, which he's, renting this quite lavish mansion in the hills of LA. And they're talking about Charlie, and and he's like, I've got to meet him, And the next thing, Charlie arrives and walks up into the house. Well, I think they stayed there for about 6 months.
Yep. They didn't leave.
No, wouldn't leave. Which it got to a point where Dennis Wilson was like, he actually left the house going, nah, you've got to get out. Like, this is horrific. So he actually moved out, Dennis Wilson, and moved into his apartment he had somewhere else. And the lease was out on this house. And so then they got kicked out and moved on. But that was the only reason that they had to move from there. They all just arrived and dosed everywhere and free love. Yeah. But in that meeting with Dennis Wilson, he was getting some connections. The Beatles actually recorded one of his songs, which he got no credit for. So, which is pretty shit.
And wasn't it never released?
It was released. It was
released.
It was released. You can actually go and listen to it. So it was he called it Cease to Exist, but the Beatles renamed it Never Learn to Love.
Okay.
Never Learn Not to Love.
Okay.
I've listened to it. Not great.
Not one of their best. It's not one that I immediately go, that's a Beatles hit.
Oh, yeah, no, that they call it. It was on like the B-side,
Okay.
back in the tape day.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely, it's definitely recorded, and you can when you hear like that he called it Cease to Exist, those words appear in the song. Like, it is his song that he wrote apparently in jail. He wrote about 80 songs whilst he was in prison. And so, yeah, they did record it, but he never got any acknowledgement for it. And the producer on that was this Terry Melcher, who Charlie Manson then really he was shitty with him. And I don't blame him being shitty with him. Like, I mean, he really did get screwed over by this. If you're going to use the guy's music, you've got to give him the credit.
Absolutely.
If he's talented enough to have written the song and be there, then name him, Yeah. even paying for it, you know. But yeah, so that sort of started a real rivalry there, and a grudge that I guess maybe sparked what happened next.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. The way that Manson's brain works, it's hard to know whether this was the motivator or just decided to pick that to involve it as well.
Well, I think maybe this was a very convenient sort of excuse to incite what he wanted to.
Yes.
Anyway, you can see online interviews with Manson, and he does ramble a lot. And some of the stuff he says, I'm like, oh, that's actually quite clever and really insightful. And then other shit that comes out of his mouth, you're like, where the fuck did that even come from, mate? Like, what is... So... Yeah, there's something in there, isn't there? Like, and the fact that he's obviously written a song that the Beatles have then recorded, that's huge. But then on the other hand,
Beach Boys, not the Beatles.
Oh, sorry, Beach Boys. Sorry.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, he's then, I don't know, perpetrating all these crimes against young women. Like, I don't know. It's just that he's crazy. There's so much going on there. Yeah. So are we at the...
I think this brings us to,
Okay. So on the 9th of August in 1969, the Manson family basically embarked on what was a 48-hour killing spree. Mm-hmm. They turned up. So Manson decided that they were going to target the house of Sharon Tate and Roman Polanski.
Which is where Terry Melcher used to live.
That's right.
But he knew he wasn't living there anymore.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because he'd gone there multiple times saying, I want to see Terry Melcher, and that he'd been told by the owner of the house, no, he doesn't live here anymore. He wouldn't tell him where he lived. He just kept saying, oh, he moved to Malibu.
So their house is in Cielo Drive, Benedict Canyon. Mm-hmm. That comes up in another one of our episodes.
Yes, it does.
Robert Durst, if you haven't already listened. But basically... Charlie decided to send his, I'm going to call them his disciples, out to Cielo Drive to basically incite a horrific crime and violence. He sent them on a bus.
Yeah.
They arrived somewhere around midnight. I don't know how, like there must be public buses that go that late. I really don't know, but they went by public bus. One of them, so he sent, was it 5 people or 4 people? He sent Tex Watson, Susan Atkins, Patricia Krenwinkel, and...
Linda...
Oh, my God, I've got it written down. Where is it?
Linda... What's her surname?
Linda. Anyway, and Linda. And out there to basically, like, go
Linda Van Houten, sorry.
That's it. Well done. To basically go out there and kill them all and come back with some money.
Yeah.
He's like, you must come back with money. They must all be dead.
But he wants them destroyed.
Yeah.
Because just going one step back a little bit too, just prior to, not just prior, like building up to this, Charlie had started training his disciples, as you want to call them. So the women and the men around, this whole idea of helter-skelter in his mind of this race war that he was wanting to incite.
Yep.
Because the whole idea was that they would then rise out above from the ground, after it all, and be the only living people left, right? So he started teaching them how to use knives and how to, kill people basically, and to go for the jugular and go for the penis on a man and all these sorts of things like with the women. And he taught them all how to do this. And there was these major sort of, he would literally run sessions with them on how to do this. So they were heavily trained and also armed with knives.
Yep.
Yeah.
And a gun.
Well, yeah, so Tex had the gun, but all the women had knives.
Yeah, so Tex was the only male.
Yeah.
And then 3 females accompanied him.
Yeah.
Now, let's just set the scene of the Tate Polanski household. So, Sharon Tate was almost 9 months pregnant.
8.5 months pregnant.
At this point.
Mm-hmm.
She had not long gotten home from London where Roman Polanski was directing a film. He was supposed to come home with her, but something happened with the script or something was going on and he decided to stay in London. He says that so she actually came home on the QE2. She went home on a boat, not by plane. But he said when he dropped her off at the port to say goodbye to her, he said he was in tears because he had this voice inside his head saying, "You're never going to see her again."
Oh.
And he said, he felt so uncomfortable and so bad about it that he actually had to just quickly go and find some women to make him feel better.
Oh.
And he's very open and explicit in saying that Sharon Tate being pregnant just didn't do it for him. Her body...
She was
oh, my
stunning.
God. So stunning. So stunning.
And, oh, God.
Beautiful. And even, there's photos of her pregnant. She is, oh, my God, just gorgeous.
And here's me, stupidly in my research for this, thinking that it was kind of odd that her ex-boyfriend was one of the men who was there at the house that night.
It's not.
Kind of going, oh, that's a bit weird. How would Roman feel about that?
Well, Roman was off fucking anything that moved over in London.
What? Now, God, okay.
Now, Sharon knew this. This wasn't a secret.
No.
That he was, and for as long as they'd been together. So he and Sharon were married.
Open, yeah.
But for as long as they'd been together, he was having affairs with other women. Roman Polanski was not... he didn't hide it. He just did what he wanted to do. Sharon Tate thought that the baby wasn't planned, but she thought that maybe that would be the thing that might stop him from doing that. But he actually didn't like her body when she was pregnant, and he had to, change the way he did things. So that wasn't ideal.
I didn't know that we were talking about two pieces of shit in this.
Turns out. I mean, look, nothing to be taken away from the fact that his wife and baby were murdered. But, he's still a piece of shit. Anyway, so in aiming to create this absolute mayhem, the family turn up. And so let me just get my list of people who were there. Stephen Parent. He was the first person to be murdered on this property. There were 5 people murdered this night. He was actually visiting the caretaker of the property who lived in a guest house on site and who the police actually originally thought was the perpetrator of the murders. So this poor little 18-year-old boy, Stephen, 18 was getting in his car to leave because he'd had the time, had the time with his friend and was trotting off home. They thought, the family turn up basically at that point, stab him to death in his car.
Yeah, I think they shot him. I think Tex shot him 3 times in the chest or something.
Is that him, was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sad. Horrific. Horrible.
Yeah.
Tex then says to...
He actually begged them and said, I won't tell anyone you're here, just let me go. I won't say a word. He tried to get out of being there and they just shot him.
Oh, horrible.
Yeah.
Tex then sends, I believe he sends Susan Atkins around and he's like, go and have a look around and see whether you can find a window or something for us to get in. So they'd already broken through the gate, which I believe was ajar or something.
No, they climbed up the side of it was a gated property, but you could climb through brush and things. And this was part of the training that they'd done with Manson prior around all of this as well. So, they had climbed up through this brushy area and climbed over things because they weren't sure if the gate was electrified or whatever.
Oh, okay.
So they climbed over all these, shrubbery and everything to get in. Yeah.
Oh, like real army shit.
Yeah, full, they called it sneaking or something. He'd teach them to do this stuff out in the woods and real, yeah.
Oh, it's just horrible. So Susan's gone around to have a look to see whether she can find a way to get into the house. Apparently she came back and was like, oh, no, I didn't find anything. She'd found an open window and a door that was unlocked, but she didn't want to go through with this. She was already having reservations, having seen Stephen killed by this point. She was like, no, I couldn't find anything, but unfortunately...
I think that was actually Linda Van Houten.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Susan Atkins, no, she was in on it. She was in.
Okay, sorry, I'm getting my people mixed up.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, Tex actually found that there was I think the front door was open.
Yeah.
and they've entered the property. So was Susan Atkins the one who then went and checked all the rooms?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So Susan walks into the house and apparently walks freely, like as if
Yep.
she belonged there.
Yeah.
And walks past... So the other people in the house that night, let's go to that actually.
Yeah.
So we had Sharon Tate, 26 years of age, married to Roman Polanski, 8.5, nearly 9 months pregnant. Her ex-boyfriend, Jay Sebring, who was a celebrity hairstylist, and, well, for sure, Sharon and he were doing it because they were in a room together, in the bedroom together at the time. There was Abigail Folger, who was an heiress to the Folger coffee fortune. Like, I believe an incredibly wealthy family.
Peter
like
Folger,
really
very well known, like very wealthy. Yep.
Incredibly wealthy, like coffee. Who'd have thunk it? But like
me.
yeah. Is that the buckets that you drink?
I keep them afloat.
Buckets of wine and buckets of coffee. Keeps us going.
That's it.
So Abigail was actually dating. Now, I'm not even going to try and pronounce this guy's first name, but his surname is Frykowski. Frykowski was one of Roman Polanski's best mates. Not a good dude. Not a good dude by any stretch of the imagination. He was also Polish. Apparently he was like some film director, although I actually looked him up and I couldn't really find anything that he was credited for that was legit. He was a drug addict, and Roman had actually said to him, you need to stay at my house and look after Sharon while I'm over in London until I get home. Sharon wasn't happy about it. She didn't want him there and felt quite uncomfortable with him being there because he was a bad dude.
Right.
But Abigail and he were doing it.
Dating. Yeah.
Dating.
Yeah.
That's a weird thing in and of itself. So inside the house, there are these four people. So we've got Sharon and Jay, and then Abigail and
Wojciech Frykowski.
Wojciech. Okay, Frykowski. Right. So, who's gone in? Linda.
Linda's down. No, Linda's been sent down the driveway now to basically scout for them to make sure no one's coming in.
Yep.
Susan's
sorry.
gone
To
gathering
have a look
up
at the
everyone.
house.
Yep.
Yeah. So basically, I think Texas told her to get everyone into the lounge room, into the living room.
Yeah.
And so apparently Susan walks past where Abigail was, and Abigail saw this person who she didn't know, but went, that's normal. Like, that's normal to have people we don't know. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
God.
I believe Frykowski was actually already in the living room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was sleeping on the couch.
Sleeping on the couch.
Yeah.
And then Sharon and Jay were in Sharon and Roman's bedroom together.
Yeah.
And so they've been then brought out into the living room.
Yeah.
And what followed is actually horrific.
Utterly horrific. Yeah.
It's actually sickening. So
Yep.
if you don't want to listen to this bit, fair call.
Yep.
Maybe skip ahead 3 or 4 minutes because it's horrible.
Yeah.
They were all stabbed. Sharon was actually stabbed in her stomach.
Well, they
where she
tied
was
them
pregnant.
with a nylon rope together, like all together. Yeah. And then they,
It was a free-for-all.
frenzy.
It was apparently a frenzy. The
Yeah.
amount of stab wounds that each of them had was actually unable to be counted because there were just so many. And all of them had wounds to their jugular. So that was, I think, what killed all of them essentially.
Yeah.
And then...
Although, this is awful. So Sharon Tate, because they hung her as well, she was actually alive when they did do that. So that although her cause of death was the hemorrhaging, that she certainly was still alive at the point of being hung up as well.
I read somewhere that her baby survived roughly 15 to 20 minutes after her death as well.
Yeah.
I don't know how they know that.
No.
But, I mean, they stabbed her in the stomach. So, oh, my God.
Oh, they stabbed her so frenzied that actually one of her boobs was actually like disconnected from her body, and that's just purely from all the multiple stabbings in that sort of region.
Area.
It wasn't that they cut it off or anything. They actually just from the stabbing of it. But they also marked an X on her stomach, right where her baby would be. Just ugh.
You cannot even imagine it.
No. Oh. Utterly atrocious.
It's atrocious.
They then used the blood to write things on the walls. So there was the words pigs, I think, written on the word there. Or it was it was another one where they wrote more, I think so. This one was just pigs written on the wall here.
Yep.
And that was done by Susan Atkins.
Yep.
She claimed to have done that because there was another murder by the family, where there'd been an arrest of this Bobby Beausoleil, and he'd been convicted of that. So basically her thoughts were, well, supposedly, that if she wrote those words on the wall, which she also wrote on the wall at that murder, because she was present for it, but the cops hadn't done her for it at all. She felt that if she did that at this killing, then the police would sort of go, oh, it can't have been Bobby Beausoleil who did that murder because it's the same person. They'd connect them and go, oh, well, he's in jail, so he can't have done this one. So then they'd release him. That was her thought process on that. But yeah,
didn't quite pan out that way, thankfully.
No. Yeah. Oh, God. So after this incident, when they've committed all this atrocity at this house, they've left there and gone back to they were living at this Spawns Ranch at the time, gone back to their master, Charles Manson, and told him what they had done. And he was not happy because they'd only come back with $100. And
that's all that Sharon Tate had in her wallet, apparently.
Well, according to the police, when they finally got to the house, there was a hell of a lot more around.
I reckon they forgot.
Oh, same. To me, that wasn't that actually wasn't their mindset.
But that was the thing that Charles Manson was like so fixated on, was getting their money.
Yeah.
Getting money, because they had none.
Well, because the
family had no money.
Say, they wanted to make this look like a robbery and everything, but they also wanted to make it look like that the Black Panthers had done it. So that it was this race thing that they were, that the Black Panthers had gone in and done this murder, so that the white men would then be angry that this had happened to all these white people, and that was their ideal. So, it's insane, absolutely insane. So since he wasn't happy with what had happened there, the following night he drove out again with them to.
I thought he went that night.
No, it was the following night.
So
that was like midnight sort of stuff.
But I thought he went like in the early hours of that morning and restaged the scene, because the following night is when they perpetrated the LaBianca murder.
Yeah. The following night they went out for
Yeah, so on the night of this killing, though, Charles Manson went back there.
Oh, yeah, he went and wiped the scene.
Yeah.
Sorry, I missed that.
And staged certain things.
Yeah, he left a pair of glasses there to sort of throw the cops, which it did. The glasses, they did go down that track.
Yeah, they did.
So it worked. But
and he wiped things. He picked up things that they'd left there that they shouldn't have left.
Yeah, he wiped down the scene. This is the thing. He had no fear of like walking into that property that like, the police would be on their way, or, that he just, this arrogance of and sadistic nature. It's just gross.
Yeah. So they're called the Tate Murders, but at the Tate household, the Polanski Tate household, the following morning their housekeeper turned up for work and she saw Stephen deceased in the car driveway. And she didn't go any further and called the police, and that's how that sort of whole scene was uncovered.
Yeah.
And the police say that originally they arrested the groundskeeper who lived on site at the guest house because he was asleep the entire time and didn't know anything had happened, despite the fact that there were gunshots. There would have, the sounds, it would have been, there would have been screaming. It would have been horrific.
Well, because Sharon actually, when she begged for her baby's life, she would have been, I can't even imagine, it just makes my heart, because she said, just please let me give birth to my baby. and
then you can kill me.
Do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
Because the thing was, at 8.5 months pregnant, they could have literally cut that baby out of her and that baby could have lived. She wanted her baby to live.
Yeah.
And oh God, I can't even.
Oh, it actually makes me feel sick.
Absolutely.
The following night on the 10th of August in 1969, this time Charles Manson participated in the murders of the LaBiancas. So there was Lino and Rosemary LaBianca. They lived in a middle-class suburb in LA. So this is not the Benedict Canyon of LA where you've got celebrities and multi-million-dollar homes. This is in a fairly middle-class, lovely suburb. Like, it's, you know,
he's a
really,
supermarket executive. He wasn't,
really nice
you know,
homes.
like,
That's right.
Yeah.
But it's not what Sharon Tate level home was like.
Yeah.
So they break into the LaBianca's home. Charles ties them up this time. So he's a lot more, I don't know, present and involved in this incident.
Well,
or
I
this
think
murder,
he claims
these
he did
murders.
that, but he actually, I don't think, like, this is the thing. He's such a little man.
Tiny. In so many ways.
In so many ways. I think he would big note himself, like, oh, I've gone and done this for you, you do the rest, But from the accounts of the others there, he didn't do much other than instruct them, I think.
Yes, I think you're right. So from what I can gather, the most accurate account of it is that he did go in there and tie them up. He said to them, we're just robbing you. We're not going to kill you if you let us take whatever we want to take. And they were like, yep, you do what you want to do.
Yeah.
Charles then disappeared. He fucked off.
Yeah.
And sent the disciples in, and they murdered both Rosemary and Lino.
Yeah.
This was reported a lot quicker to the police. I actually don't know how that happened. Do you know how that one happened?
No, I don't.
But I know the police attended far quicker than, it's not like they were found. Maybe someone heard something. I actually am not sure.
No, I didn't actually find anywhere that said that of how that was, how that went
the police
down.
found out about it, but they did.
Yeah.
And they actually went down a path in investigating these murders because Lino was actually a drug addict himself and
really?
a gambling addict.
Right.
And they thought that maybe he'd gotten himself into a bit of trouble, and they were sort of investigating things down that pathway.
Yeah.
Now, again in blood.
Yeah.
Was it Patricia? who
No,
wrote
it was Patricia Krenwinkel this time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She wrote in blood on their fridge, Hilter Skelter.
Hilter Skelter.
So apparently she was literate, and because she was so young when she was indoctrinated into this, so her education was, stunted at quite a low level. So she wrote Healter, Skelter, in their blood on their fridge.
Yeah. She also wrote Rise on the wall and Death to Pigs in the blood.
Oh,
yeah. So gross.
Oh, sorry, go.
No, I was just going to say, I think it was, I want to say that it was Tex that did this, or it might have been her actually. No, it was her. She also grabbed a two-pronged carving fork, and she stabbed Lino in the stomach 14 times with it, and then left it sitting sticking out of his stomach.
She actually carved the word war into his stomach.
Yes.
Yep.
As well as that with the fork sticking out too.
Oh God.
Oh God. Yeah. So present at this incident was Leslie Van Houten, which I think I said Linda earlier. Sorry, Leslie Van Houten.
You said Leslie.
Did I? Clem Grogan. So there was another man at this one as well, as well as Tex Watson. And Krenwinkel. I don't believe Susan wasn't at this one, was she?
Yes, she was.
Oh,
Susan was there.
She was there?
It was Tex Watson, Susan, Patricia Krenwinkel, Leslie Van Houten, and what was Clem's surname?
Grogan.
That's it. Yep.
Yeah. Yes. So, these two incidents have happened, and what I found really fascinating was that they're both absolutely horrific crimes of frenzied stabbings. They're both got similar words written on walls in blood.
Happened one night
apart.
The other. Yep.
And the police come out and say there's no link between them.
Totally unrelated.
Unrelated crimes. They're so far from looking at who this would have perpetrated these crimes. It ain't funny. They've got no idea. They're off on fairyland of like no idea what's going on here.
At this point, they had when they made this announcement,
Yeah.
they had the groundskeeper in custody,
Yeah.
which obviously he had nothing to do with it, and they also had already started investigating like any criminal links that Leno had.
Yeah.
So they had their theories already in place. They
And
also
it was so off the mark.
so off the mark. They also had Roman Polanski down as a suspect
Right.
for months.
Yeah, right.
Even though he was proven to be in London, and he was granted, because he was a Polish citizen, he had to be granted an emergency visa to come home, like literally the day after these murders took place, so that he could come and obviously deal with everything that had happened.
God.
So what the fuck were the police doing?
Oh, yeah. So they would never
Honestly.
have worked this out, I don't think. Which,
No.
which is not actually what the Manson family wanted. They wanted them to pin it on someone entirely different. They wanted them to go down this route of this. So the Black Panthers, you know.
So in order to try and do that, what they did was they actually stole Rosemary's wallet that night, on the night of the LaBianca's murder.
Yeah.
And they left it. They went and dropped it in a black neighbourhood.
Yes.
Because they wanted the police to find her wallet in the black neighbourhood and go,
Yeah.
oh, black people have done this.
Yeah, yeah.
This is black people's fault.
Because the other interesting thing is like in the Tate household, Quincy Jones was supposed to be there that night.
Yes.
Which I wonder
And
what
Mama
would have...
Cass from the Mamas and the Puppers, she was meant to be there too.
So if they were, I wonder what they would have done with that to flip it how they wanted to say that this was done, by black people against white people. Like, I wonder how they could have flipped that if that had been the case, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know, because I don't think that the people infiltrating it would have known to pull back or anything.
Oh, not at
change
all.
What they
Not-
did. Like,
no.
they would have been on this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
But so from this, basically, the cops have got no idea. And so, unrelated entirely to these murders, there's this, hippie group that that the cops are well aware of living out on this ranch at the back of LA. It's an old movie set. It's a pretty weird ass place. They run like horseback riding out of it, but it was used for movie sets and now it's sort of dilapidated. And
it's like ruins. Basically.
I find it really funny how, like, watching that doco where there was the clips of them back in 1968, 1967 talking about living there, and one of the girls is like, oh gosh, it was so idyllic and it's so, like beautiful here, and then like her now of 2017 saying it was gross. There was rats everywhere. It was
no sanitation.
There was nothing. It would have stunk. In her LSD tripped out mind, it was the most nirvana of places. Amazing. Yeah. So they were all living out in this place, and they were doing horrific things. They also had another ranch out in Death Valley, which is supposedly where they were going to go and live underground until this war broke
Until they
out.
could rise above.
Then they'd rise from the ground.
Yeah.
So after these murders, they head out to Death Valley, and majority of them are out in Death Valley at this point. And but they were stealing vehicles and taking them back to the ranch, turning them into dune buggies and all these sorts of things. There was also a fire that was lit and all these things that were going on, that the cops go out there and start raiding the ranch. There was actually 3 raids of both Death Valley and Spawn Ranch. And on these occasions, various members of the cult were arrested. So we get to a point where Manson was actually arrested for arson for this fire he'd lit. Susan Atkins was arrested for vandalism and theft, I believe. And then other members as well were also in prison for various other theft, vandalism, all these sorts of things. So fairly petty sort of things.
But they needed to steal to survive, because none of them were working. There was no legitimate income there.
No.
Yeah.
So whilst they're in jail, Susan Atkins, who was a very interesting person, she's in prison with these women who were also known to the cult, things that they actually had been there at various times. They weren't cult members, but they were friends of the cult who just happened to be in prison at the same time.
Well, they'd kind of been there, they'd hung around, but hadn't fully drunk the Kool-Aid, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so this Susan starts bragging about these murders that they'd committed. And so from this, one of the women in particular was saying to her, you shouldn't be saying any of this. Like, this is going to get you into trouble. You should shut your mouth. Another woman, though, who was overhearing all of this, use it to her advantage.
Well, she was like, oh, you beauty, keep going. I want to know all of it so I can
Tell me more.
reduce my sentence. Say
Exactly.
more.
So she did. She went to the cops and she said, you need to look at Susan Atkins.
I've got some information for you. What can you do for me?
Yeah. Spilled the beans on what had been said. So the cops then started looking into it. And there was evidence to show that obviously with them being arrested, there was fingerprints on file and they were able to match them up with fingerprints at the scene of particularly, I think, at the Tate residence. There was also some other physical evidence that was found. Let me find it. But there was physical evidence that was found at both the scenes. Mainly Tex Watson was then linked up with it with some physical evidence that linked him.
Are you talking like fingerprints?
There was definitely fingerprints
Yeah.
of certain people.
Well, I think they only found Tex Watson's fingerprints at one of the scenes anyway.
Yeah. God,
I mean,
where
I
was
don't
my
think
notes on it?
they weren't wearing gloves or anything like that. I think
No.
I feel like they found more fingerprints at the LaBianca's scene because Charles Manson had actually gone and tried to clean up the Sharon Tate house, whereas nothing like that had been done at the LaBianca's home.
So the weapon, the gun linked him up. So they actually found him in the possession of the 22 caliber gun that
Who had the gun?
Tex Watson.
He didn't get rid of it.
No, he still had it.
What a fucking idiot.
Yeah. So that was able to be linked up with
right.
as well. So there was definitely
So there was enough
to support
evidence
them
there to be like, yep,
Yeah.
you're done for,
You're
guys.
done.
You're done.
There were cult members who they had to literally deprogram them to get this evidence. There's one particular female who stepped up and came forward with a lot of information for the police to be able to carry through with this and be able to get them all on it.
Yeah.
And so she was very much shunned by the rest of them, and they all hated her for doing it. So she came forward and was able to give lots of information and background around what was set up, and because she was given immunity because she didn't actually do any of the murdering,
Perpetrate the
but she was
murders.
witness to these crimes.
Yes.
So
it wasn't actually until 1971 that they were taken to trial. So it's taken 2 years or a year and a half, nearly 2 years, in order for this to be brought to trial. Manson's behaviour in being interviewed and then throughout the trial process was bizarre. He
to say the
is
least.
such a strange cat. And it was very sort of theatrical in the way he'd be like, and then like it was performative. He was putting on a show for anyone and everyone who wanted to listen to his rantings and ravings.
Yeah.
He was sentenced to death, and that was actually then commuted to a life sentence in 1972 when California got rid of the death penalty.
Yeah.
So Charles Manson spent the rest of his life in prison.
Yep.
The other women who were convicted.
And Tex Watson.
Watson.
They all got life sentences. Eventually, they were all given death penalty to begin with, and obviously, when that was found to be, what do you call it, like not constitutional? I don't know how they decided it wasn't.
Oh, I think they just abolished the death penalty in
yeah.
California only in 1972. So their sentences were then commuted to life. Yeah.
Yeah. So they got life sentences, but that also meant they were a bit attached to parole minimums as well, which obviously with death penalty there's not. So so that became a bit interesting. Tex Watson was still in prison. He was up for parole 18 times and denied every single time, but he's still alive, and he's up for parole again in the next 12 months ish. I want to say he's got like a parole date for later this year potentially.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What are the chances he's going to get it though?
I think slim to none, because I think in prison he's pretty horrific.
Yeah, he's perpetrated crimes in prison, and that's why he's been denied parole 18 times. It's not only due to the severity and how horrific the murders were that he committed.
Absolutely,
he's actually then gone on to further perpetrate crimes, and he's certainly not a model prisoner by any stretch of the imagination. So I think it's very unlikely that he will ever get out of prison.
Yeah.
And he's a really old man now. Like
75,
Yeah.
I think he is.
but he looks old. Like prison has not done good things for him.
You get good skincare there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Patricia Krenwinkel is still alive and in prison, and she's actually the longest incarcerated female inmate in California.
Yep.
So I think she's like 72
Yes,
or so.
she's 72. Yep.
Linda Van Houten. We'll go back one before her, actually. Susan Atkins, sorry. So she has passed away.
Yes.
So she lived out her life in prison.
She died in prison.
She died in prison. Yep. So, but now Linda Van Houten, she was actually very interesting.
Leslie Van Houten.
Leslie Van Houten. I've actually, that's where I've done it. I've written Linda in my last minute late night.
Oh, yeah, right.
Research writing. Yep. Leslie Van Houten, she was actually awarded 2 retrials for her convictions, but the second one occurred in 1978, and that resulted in still a conviction of 2 counts of murder, and was given minimum 7 years to life. Now, people were really concerned about this because as they were doing the retrial, even though they were fairly convinced she was going to be convicted still, it could still mean that time spent in prison meant that she would walk straight out even though she was convicted.
Yeah.
So, but turns out no. So she has spent 53 years in jail so far. She has been rejected for parole 24 times. Now this last one though, where she was, the parole board actually in her last 2. So the parole board awarded her parole. However, the governor, who is still the governor at the moment, Hegsum, is that right? Hegsum? Mm-hmm. He was the one who actually said, no. That's nice of you to say that, parole board, but no, I'm going to say no.
Yep. I didn't realise that a governor had that authority. I mean, I knew they could excuse prisoners, but I didn't realise they could keep prisoners in.
Yeah. I thought that once a parole board made a decision, it was that.
Like if you're out, that's kind of it. You're out, but no.
So yeah, he said, nah, back in you go. So she didn't get that one.
And that was like the day before she was due to be released. So she had 2 weeks of thinking she was getting out.
Yeah. And then he went, nah. So then again, the last one, she was granted parole by the parole board again. And Hegsum again said, nope, go back in. She appealed that, and the appeal board upheld that she should be released. So in 2023, she walked free.
Yep.
So she is out and about, living her life. There's been no word that she has done anything, and I hope by this stage in prison she has been deprogrammed.
She's in her 70s.
Yeah.
You know, she's lived pretty much all of her adult life.
53 years in jail.
Yeah.
God.
I mean,
what life do you have outside?
I guess we send people to prison with the view to reform.
Yeah.
I know that is impossible in some cases. Let's hope that in Leslie's case that's what's happened.
Yeah.
Because she's had her whole adult life really to think about the things she's done, to understand that. And I mean, part of her appeal and the reason that she just wanted to go to trial again in this late 70s was because she was so young. She was fed LSD. She was brainwashed essentially into following Charles Manson without having an independent thought. Yeah. And so, look, I can almost understand why she didn't feel culpable. And if we go back, she was the one who we talked about where she was sent to, find who was in the house, all those sorts of things, and who said, oh, no one else here. Let's keep going. She didn't want to do it. She didn't want to do it. So a little bit more remorse than others, whereas I would say the rest of them, there was zero remorse from Susan Atkins, and I mean, Charles Manson, holy shit. I mean, in jail, he's been a problem. Oh. He's been remanded, there's been 108 cases of him being involved in things in prison, including bringing in drugs to the jail, which he's been mostly in isolated sections of the jail, yet somehow he has managed to work the system and managed to get drugs brought in and all these sorts of things. You can go and see an interview of him when it was the first interview he did after being imprisoned, and they allowed a camera crew to come in there and film him. Yeah. I think if you go and watch it, you can sort of see the state of mind that he was in. He was just, oh my God, just crazy. But then I can also understand how people were almost drawn to him in a way, because some of this, as I said before, some of the stuff he said, you're like, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That kind of actually makes sense. And yes, it's rambling, and yes, it's crazy, and yes, then he goes off on all these bizarro tangents, but like maybe people would take that one thing that resonated with them and kind of go with it. You know,
Yeah.
you've got nothing else. You're in
you've got
prison.
nothing
What
else.
else have you got? What do you got to lose? You might as well follow the crazy dude who
Yeah.
might give you a, you know, some LSD or some harder shit.
Well, I mean,
You
it's
know, if he's
crazy.
able to smuggle it in.
Exactly. But like, I mean, it was so crazy that the people followed him were like, you know, when in during the court hearing where he was denied to be to represent himself.
Yeah.
The next day he shows up in court with an X carved into his forehead, and then what do his followers do?
They all cover.
They
They all
carve
do the same
into
thing.
his-
But he didn't. It's like, oh yeah, I don't get it.
No.
And I think, well, we've spoken about a cult on this show before, and I believe at that time we were like, we do not understand how people like. I get that people who join cults are generally quite vulnerable. They're looking for something. They're looking for purpose. They're looking for somebody to follow. They're probably lost in their own lives. But to the extreme to which people go, like you say, carving and like literally scarring yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they shave their heads
Forever.
too, which I mean, that goes
I mean,
back,
shaving your
whatever.
head, whatever.
Yeah, but the carving it into your head, like, that's full on.
It's so full on. It just, that's the stuff that blows my mind.
Yeah, yeah. So obviously, Charles Manson was convicted of the murders, but conspiracy to murder as well,
Yeah.
because there wasn't sort of the evidence of the fact of him actually committing the murders. However, in jail, he has admitted that two other prisoners, he's boasted as if he has killed at least 12 other people.
Yeah, and up to 24, like as in
Up
the
to
total
35
number. Oh, 35
murders.
is
35.
it? Okay, wow.
Yeah. There's a list a mile long of people that they believe, you know, that he could be connected to, or at least family members directed by him to have been murdered. They were just... Oh, the list is so long, it's ridiculous. I know, do you want me to read out the names of like who they are? But it's just insane. And when you read them, there are certainly strong connections as to how they were linked to the family. I know.
Yeah, read a few.
Yeah, okay. Well, so Nancy Warren and Clyde Delaney. Nancy was 64, Clyde, 24. They were both found near... in California, at an antique store owned by Nancy. They were both beaten and strangled to death with 36 leather thongs. After the family members were arrested, they became suspects when it was discovered that members of the family had been in the area at the time of the murders. However, no one in the family was ever charged.
What did you just say? They were something about leather thongs? What was that?
Yeah, they were. They were strangled to death with 36 leather thongs.
As in like flip-flops or
No, I think,
G-strings?
like, well, yeah, maybe it's G-strings.
Oh,
I don't know. Yeah, right.
sorry.
John Philip Hout, who was 22, was an Ohio native who had moved to California and met Manson in the summer of 69. He joined the family amongst the group, was arrested in October in one of the raids.
I think he was a really good musician, this kid.
Yeah,
Is that
right.
him and that's how he was drawn into it?
I think so, yes. He was definitely associated with them, but he suddenly found a gun in a room, picked it up and promptly shot himself while attempting a game of Russian roulette, which is what the family members explained it to being as to the police.
Yep.
However, you would expect then if you were playing Russian roulette that you would pick up that gun and find that there was one shell
And no bullets.
and no bullets left in it.
Yeah.
It was the complete opposite. It had however shell casings in it, however many, I'm not good with guns, but if it was another 5 bullets left in it and the 6th one was shot. So the gun was fully loaded. There was no Russian roulette about it. So there was witnesses to the death. It's always been considered to be him that he murdered. He committed suicide and killed himself. However, there's strong belief that it was set up to go down that way.
Yep.
Reet Hovertson, 19, a young woman found stabbed to death in 1969. Her body was found with over 150 stab wounds from a penknife to her neck and upper body, which is where Manson had told them to stab people. And lots of defence wounds in her hands.
I don't remember reading about
She'd been disposed along Mulholland Drive. Some witnesses claimed to have seen a woman named Sherry.
Yes, right.
Who matched the description of in the Manson family, but they couldn't ever connect her up entirely.
Right, yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, a definite
the list is
Manson.
Basically endless, isn't it?
It literally goes on and on and on, yeah.
And so that's like, you've probably got the list there of the potentially 35 who are more than likely, murders were more than likely perpetrated by the family.
Yep.
But then if you go online, you can find hundreds and hundreds of cases where people are like, even if it's like a copycat style thing of very similar trademarks and all of that sort of stuff. So it's actually unknown how much devastation these people or this cult has actually caused.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly don't think that walking into the Tate-Polanski residence was the first time those people had done anything like that.
Agreed.
There was certainly a build up to it in terms of his training of them as well. As I say, there was these training sessions on how to use a knife. There was training sessions on how to hide in bushes and all these sorts of things. Then they would go out. He would send them out to do robberies. It did escalate slowly over a very short period of time. But I dare say there were many murders that were preceding it.
Do you think that because Sharon Tate was Sharon Tate, that this is kind of, I think given them the notoriety?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that linked to the fact of that in a way it was more of a massacre, and that there was 5 people killed in one time, and then very quickly followed with a very similar sort of style in the next.
Yeah.
They could pin those ones on them very easily.
Yeah. I think it's worth noting just really quickly as well that no one was ever convicted of the murder of Sharon and Roman's baby.
No, I was literally going to say the same thing. That really irks me. I think today would be different.
For sure.
I believe the law has changed,
Yes.
particularly a baby that far along. As we say, if she could have given birth that day, and that baby would be 100% viable and would have lived and survived.
Absolutely.
So that should have been an 8th person added to the convictions, to be really honest.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
I think that was an oversight of the law at the time.
At the time. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Oh, crazy. As we said at the start of this, we could probably talk about this for days and days. I've actually just realised I've got 2 pages. I've got 2 pages of notes here. We haven't even spoken about.
Yeah.
But look, if you want to know more, there is obviously plenty more out there. We have given the highest of high level overviews of what's going on, of what happened. You've done a great job, Meg, as always.
Oh, you
go, girl.
You are amazing.
Love it. Next week, we are actually delving into another huge case.
Oh, yes.
Snowtown.
We're going back to Adelaide.
Adelaide. Oh, we have quite a few Adelaide cases coming up. So for those of you in the area, stay tuned.
Yes.
I'm sure you know a lot about Snowtown already. For those of you who don't, tune in next week and learn all about it.
Yes, there's been updates recently too to that. So
yeah,
it'll be good.
Yeah. My dad actually asked. That was the one case he's asked me. Are you going to ever cover that? And I'm like, yeah, we will. So, Dad, next week.
Dad, aka Ron Iddles.
Yep, Ron Iddles. Would Dad be older than Ron Iddles? They'd be very similar in age, I think.
Doppelganger.
Yep, totally. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. As always, please follow us on our socials. We've been getting, as we said, lots of engagement over on TikTok and Instagram. Love your messages. Please keep sending them through. We really, really, really appreciate it. If you'd like to buy us a coffee, you can do so at buymeacoffee.com/2crimebesties. And we're looking forward to seeing you all next week.
For sure. Stay curious, crime besties.
Bye.